So while I'm in the streets here of the Colonial, just been to my little coffee shop, and it's my last day, so partly this is just recording some final memories of this city before I go up north. But I'm also responding to my friend Christian's video because he just made a really significant video on his live stream in which he discussed this dichotomy, this fork in the road he's kind of facing on a psychological level of whether to go down the route of just taking some time out and just being a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more zen, having a bit more self-love, versus pushing on to the next mountain, the next challenge, the next the next conquest, the next girl, the next client, whatever the case is. And what he's expressing there is something that every high achieving person is going to come into contact with. And so I wanted to just make a video on it because it's something that I've definitely faced. And I faced it on enough occasions that eventually I realized, okay, this is something that everyone goes through. And it's also, the answer to this question has also shaped entire civilizations. And I'm not exaggerating by that. It's the fundamental human kind of question of how to deal with human dissatisfaction. And so, first of all, I actually just want to talk about the civilizational one because I think it's really interesting. It's not something that, it's not the kind of thing that gets discussed every day. But that feeling of inner dissatisfaction with whatever you do, how do we address that? How do we actually handle that? And there are different ways in which we can obviously do it. Religion, specifically Buddhism and specifically Christianity, I'm not going to go down the denominations of Christianity, but I'll say Orthodoxy because Orthodoxy is the first Christianity and it's the closest to the original followers of Christ. Buddhism and Christianity go down a point of view of all of these desires out in the world, they're all pulling you off center. They're all pulling you out into, in Christianity they really call it sin. Buddhism, it's just being off center. There's not as much of a moral judgment on it. But they both essentially say the same thing. And the way to handle this in those two faiths, in Buddhism and also Christianity, is to start to step back and step away from these desires, from these, you can call them distractions. So Christianity, it literally, there is a phrase in Christianity, die to the world. I don't know what they have in Buddhism, but it's like this idea of non-attachment, right? So that's one approach. And the whole of Christian civilization, to an extent, one extent or another, is based on that. Same, I would imagine, with Buddhistic civilization as well. I would say the additional factor with Christianity, in addition to the rules, because there are the 10 Commandments, but in addition to the rules, you also have the infusion of love from Christ as well, which is a different feel to the Buddhistic traditions. There is this infusion of love. The message being God loves you, Christ loves you, over and over again. And it's a very powerful message. You might even argue that civilization such that it is today really could do with more of this message, because people are so lonely and disconnected. So this is definitely one worldview, right? Okay, now the other worldview is the worldview which accepts that these ups and downs, this satisfaction and dissatisfaction, it's never ending. It's never ending. And we're never going to get past it. And all we're going to do is we're going to just build, feel satisfied about something for a few minutes, maybe take a rest now and then. Even Hercules, whatever you want to call him, even he took a rest sometimes as well. There's one point he stays at an island for like a year or something. Maybe it was the island of Lesbos. maybe had a little bit of an agenda on there, but anyway, even those heroes, from Greco-Roman civilization, they took breaks. And so that's the other worldview. You might call it the epic worldview or the heroic worldview, where you accept this is the nature of life. This is the nature of life. And you go out into the world and bravely, and you just you enjoy all the fruits, all the beauty, and you brave you brave all the challenges of life. That's the Greco-Roman worldview, which re-emerged during the Renaissance. And actually, I would argue that to a large extent, our society for the last 100 years was really based on this worldview, pretty much since the Renaissance. That's why this place was built. The guys out here, the guys from Spain, just came out on this impulse, right? This impulse out onto the open waves. You could get killed by a sea monster. You could get dragged down by some mermaids. Anything could have happened to you, or you could more likely just die of starvation and scurvy. But they came out, they braved the challenges, and when you look at where the West actually got to with this worldview, reinvigorating the Greco-Roman worldview, that took us, literally took us up to the stars. Literally took us up to the stars. Our civilization actually went out into the stars. And so this dichotomy, that's right at the heart of the human soul. It really is. It really is. I just wanted to expand upon the video that Kristian did, because it's so key. It's such a key concept, and he's brushing up against it as he's getting to some kind of limit points of achievement where you go, I'm in frickin' Asia, I've got an online business, I'm doing great, I've got all these girls, what more do I want? What more do I want? And at that point do I go, okay, I've kind of done everything and I've still got this hole in my soul, so to speak? Or do I actually just take a recharge and go, you know what, I'm going to chill, and I'm going to go for the next thing, whatever that may be. Yeah, and that's actually, in a way, that's the Faustian pact of the, in a way, the Western mind as it is now, or I would say the good element of the Western mind, before it started to get fucked up about a decade ago, is the Faustian pact is we're shooting on up into infinity, and some people just let everything else go by the wayside. You think of the great inventors and so on. These people just going on to infinity, the great artists, and it's just like kind of screw everything else. That is it is a Faustian pact to some extent. So yeah, but that's obviously the extreme end. That's obviously the extreme end. So where I am right now in my own personal journey, I kind of go between these two things. I've had periods of my life where I've spent like a few years going into Buddhism. The last couple of years I've been much more interested in Christian Orthodoxy, because actually, shockingly to me, I didn't realize until I got to the Balkans, the versions of Christianity I've been fed are actually not real Christianity. So I've been exploring that. So I think I've got some kind of a grip on it, what it offers you psychologically. And I'm talking about it intellectually, but the experience is very real. The experience is very real. Versus, the Greco-Roman, the kind of barbarian element. I do favor the latter, to be honest with you. I do favor the latter. I don't really know what else to say. I am definitely a person who thinks about the metaphysical, about things like the afterlife, about reincarnation, about heaven, whatever it is. I do think about the metaphysical. So I just wanted to extend the discussion. Ironically, now I'm about to go and give some books to my friend. I've got a whole showing you my backpack of books there. I'm about to go and give some books to my friend Jack, who's an author. I'm out here. And two of the books I'm going to be giving him, one of them is a Portuguese copy of the Bible, and another is a copy of the Iliad as well. Mint copy of the Iliad. Yeah, it was amazing because I was just packing the bag when I saw the video from Kristian, and it's literally like I'm packing up those two worldviews that he discusses. I'm literally putting them in my bag here right now, taking them off to dump them on my friends. So yeah, it's a very intellectual take on it, but it's I think it's a fascinating thing. And as I say, this very question, it really is at the base of the human experience. So I just wanted to add a final section onto this video, which relates to my own personal experiences, because I talked about culture, mentioned my friend's situation. I just wanted to talk actually about personal experiences as well. So as it relates to this dichotomy, should we say, the striving, for power, beauty, whatever the case is, love, success, versus resting in peacefulness and love and all the rest of it. I've definitely gone down both routes. I would say relatively deeply, I think, at this stage of life. I do think there is a huge amount of benefit to this kind of striving mentality, but I think it's got to go in. But I think actually striving is only one aspect of it. I actually think you have to go, in my experience anyway, that's actually quite a superficial thing. You almost need to go deeper than that. You need to go deep down into the instincts. My experience was anyway. And it's like, shit, I need to go and just achieving things, professionally is not doing it. I need to go and start, training some boxing, or in my case, going to start training at real self-defense, which is firearms. I need to start getting in touch with my body, like through dance, like partner dance, like salsa and kizomba, this type of stuff. The more animalistic sexual side, I need to start to awaken this a bit more. I need to accept this in myself a little bit more. I think Kristian talks about closet heterosexuals. Honestly, I think I fell into that for a period. I think most British men do. Because I'm not going to go down that route, but being seen as creepy or seedy. Everyone's afraid to be seen that way, when the reality is, it's just the word for, heterosexual, really. Maybe a bit clumsy, but anyway. So I had to awaken all these more barbaric forces within myself, and that honestly gave me a lot of fulfillment. Gave me a deeper layer to myself, other than just being the achiever, So I think that's an important side of this, this emphasis on force and emphasis on, the Greco-Roman side anyway. Now on the other side to that, I've also had periods of life, actually specifically when I was having some health difficulties 10 years ago. I got really into Buddhism. For obvious reasons, it has a lot of health benefits. And I found value in it then. I did find value in it. Last year, when I was basically very lonely in North Macedonia, I'd broken up with my girlfriend, and going on a solo mission in North Macedonia, pick up and stuff, and it's just basically difficult, if not impossible, even though it's an incredible place. But what I did have there was access to the Orthodox Church, and I would go and sit and look at the paintings and stuff and listen to the chants, and it was an amazing experience. It was a really amazing experience to spend some time. It was like an almost unintentional retreat, effectively. And the weird thing was, I was working quite a lot as well at the time. but it gave me this peace through the day. So I actually really do see a lot of value in those two systems, the Buddhistic way, the Christian way. I see a lot of value in them. And I can't understand how they've been so important in civilization, because if you imagine times in the past where you were effectively like almost a borderline slave, I think appreciating the beauty in the small things and appreciating the message of a religious message, I think that was a really good way to move through life. But it's kind of like more and more people have, to some extent, got greater freedom. So, and I think with that comes often more of an embrace of the achievement of the barbarian. And I think let's wait for this guy to go past. Motorbikes, being surrounded by 12-year-olds just like revving up their engines and stuff. So yeah, I do see a lot. I've seen a lot of value in my own life of those two things. I almost had like my own spiritual retreats, one through Buddhism and then one through Christianity. In both cases though, I really felt like there was something slightly wrong with just letting go. Like, I could see the appeal of it, and I even kind of did it for a while, but it just didn't feel fully right. It felt like that was a cop-out, basically. It was a cop-out. Yeah, Albert Camus wrote a book called The Myth of Sisyphus, which is just a retelling of the myth of Sisyphus, the guy who just pushes the boulder up the hill, it falls down, he walks back down the hill, he pushes it back up again. And he recast Sisyphus as a hero, not as someone who was punished eternally. He actually said, no, look, this is heroic. And I kind of get why he did that, because it's kind of like the pushing is almost a reward in itself, in a strange way. So yeah, I think I'll finish on that, to be honest with you. Those are my final thoughts on this very quiet Good Friday here. Yeah, we'll finish on a view of the Caribbean Ocean. You can see it hopefully down there. So yeah, I'll leave things there, the discussion there. But yeah, thank you very much, Kristian, for that very stimulating piece. I found it really interesting to listen to, and it sparked off so many thoughts of my own.